It has been said several times, and of late, that we have to become divine scientists, divine physicists, and divine alchemists. But we could ask ourselves, what is divine alchemy? And perhaps we can make an example, starting with Hinduism, not going back too far. But Hinduism, with its pantheon of gods, named after the cosmological forces. And along comes Sakyamuni and adds his teaching, because of course he was born as a Hindu. And out of this arose Buddhism. Then Buddhism was taken over the Himalayas and mixed with Confucianism, which is traditionalism basically, and Taoism, which is nature, to become Chan. And then it was exported to Japan, where it was mixed with Shintoism, sun worship, to become Zen. Is this divine alchemy? Let's put two simple stories, one coming from the Buddha, so it is said, and the other coming from Zen. Now, the first is the story about the time when the Buddha was born as a little quail, and he had for his turf just a bare piece of ground, sandy and dry. So he got quite tired of living in this barrenness, so he decided that he would seek other fields. So he decided to flap his wings and ascend, and this is what he did. And he traversed territory where he could see green fields and the wonders, and he thought, this is paradise. But just as he was flitting around, becoming accustomed to the wonders of what it was he was experiencing, along came a great falcon with its huge claws and caught him in mid-air, and was of course about to descend to devour him. And the little quail thought to himself, well, I have a choice here. I can just surrender to my inevitable death because I'm going to get eaten, or I can bring something else to bear here. So in his little voice he shouted up to the great falcon, wait a minute. If I had been on my home turf, you wouldn't have caught me like you did. Well, this was quite new to the falcon, because he'd been used to birds just flapping around and begging for their life or whatever it was, and this feisty little bird, challenging him. So the falcon said, what do you mean? And little quail said, just what I said. If I had been on my home turf, you wouldn't have got me like you did. So the falcon laughed to himself and squeezed his claws around the little falcon, and he's thinking, oh yeah, little pipsqueak like you, you think you can better me. But because the falcon's pique was awakened, he was taking up the challenge. So he said, well, where is this piece of turf? And so the little quail guided him through the ethers. And there it is, down there, that's it. So the falcon flew down and left the quail there in this barren piece of dry land, so-called. And then he flew up again into the air. getting ready, as was his usual pattern, of tucking in his wings and diving down towards the little quail again. But just as the little quail was looking up, and first of all he saw this little dot, which was the falcon up so high, and then coming closer and closer and closer, and just at a moment he hopped aside, and the falcon dived down straight, his beak landing, of course, and that was the end of the falcon. And then there's that Zen story about the shogun who was given a little monkey. Feisty little thing he was, quick as a flash, and the shogun loved this little monkey because he was so wily and so quick and agile, and no wonder he was having a big festival for all his samurais and others. And he thought he'd test his samurais, and he said, "You're so good with your swords, and your senses have been honed so carefully and well. Catch this monkey." Well, the samurais first of all tried to chase the little fellow all around the place, but he was so elusive. He kept jumping behind the shogun or under his sleeve or round behind him, and then the samurais took some sticks and they tried to whack the monkey with it, but he was so quick and agile and wily, he evaded them totally, and the shogun was getting more and more frustrated. He thought, you bunch who've been trained with all of your senses and all of your mind, and you can't even catch a monkey. But it so happened that there was a Zen master, Hakuin, who was amongst those who were attending the reception, and so the shogun noticed him over there in the crowd, and he said, "Oh, you know, you and your Zen stuff. Show us what you can do." So the Zen master Hakuin stepped forward with his staff in his hand, and he just stood there, and the monkey cowed down quietly, not making a move. And everyone was aghast, including the shogun himself. And he said, "How did you do that?" And the Zen master Hakuin said, "Well, it's very simple. In trying to catch the monkey, all of your samurais were afraid of hitting you. But monkey knew when I stood before him that I had no such fear. I did not fear striking you." Divine alchemy. What happens when we put these two stories together in us? What arises for you out of the alchemy of these two stories? Where are we at now? Where is it we stand? What is it about these two stories that meet in us.
Nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose, right. Nothing to lose. What does it mean, home turf? And I'm not afraid of striking you. Not fearlessness acquired like the samurais do. What is it about this place? What is it about divine alchemy? Or what is this divine alchemy? Put it together. Where do they meet? What happens when the movement of life, in whatever form it takes, meets us in our home turf? Stillness, presence, awareness, attention, focus.